Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on best practices for fighting modern financial crime and anti-money laundering. Some quick housekeeping before we start. You want to keep one BrightTalk session in your browser open, otherwise you may have some echo. That's something we have noticed in the past. You can answer questions in the question box, and we will address them either live and or by email. The webinar is recorded, and you'll receive a URL link as a notification. And please rate and suggest content to improve our webinar. So for today's webinar, Matt Rosen and myself will be your speakers. Matt, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Eric. Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Rosen, and I'm the CEO and founder of Fintel. And I'm excited to be here today to talk about our SaaS application for financial institutions to communicate and share information under Patriot Act Section 314B about financial crimes such as money laundering, terrorism, and cyber fraud, and how it integrates with Guardian Analytics case management and link analysis software. Some background about myself and the company. I started Fintel after helping develop Mayor Bloomberg's program to build software for New York City to reduce its exposure to financial crime. And before that, I served as a senior financial crimes prosecutor at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office on the staff of Robert Morgenthau, focusing on terrorist financing, banking and securities fraud, and international money laundering. And during that time, I was also cross-designated as a special federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. It's my experiences as a prosecutor and extensive familiarity with the BSA and Patriot Act that led me to launch Fintel. We'll be talking today about information sharing and what investigators at banks should be doing to resolve problems faster. I can tell you from firsthand experience that Patriot Act 314B information sharing is a powerful tool that I've seen used in action to uncover massive fraud and money laundering, but that it is under-leveraged and existing industry systematics are inadequate and slow. Much more can be done by leveraging automation, the cloud, and analytics, and we're excited to show you some of our work today. And after this presentation, please feel free to reach out to me personally. My email address is included at the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Matt. So my name is Eric Tran-Le. I'm the Vice President of Product Management at Guardian Analytics. And with further ado, let me present the company and our platform. We're a best-in-class financial crimes investigation platform. Guardian Analytics has created a unique evidence lake platform to conduct fraud and money laundering investigation and analytics. And this is an open platform that allows us to have partners such as Fintel. So today's webinar, we're going to talk about why Guardian Analytics and Fintel partnership will allow you to increase the investigation efficiency as well as the decisioning power on what to go next in terms of AML cases. A quick overview of our achievement. Guardian Analytics has about 450 financial institutions and growing. We have 40 million commercial and retail account holders, and our annual volume of banking activity is about 5 billion. The key benefits of our partnership, Guardian Analytics and Fintel, is truly to increase the AML efficiency by more than 300%. Key to that productivity is the ability to reduce the days to collect evidence. That's today, is very long due to multiple sources and multiple screens that you have to jump. And that creates a very long time to create a narrative and organize the evidence. We're going to reduce this day to collect evidence to hours to collect and retain evidence automatically from multiple sources and organize the evidence in a structured and easy way for review for the investigators. And from hours, we will also reduce to minutes the time to investigate, retain, and share evidence in a full compliance 314B section via a simple pane of glass.
So what exactly, thanks, Eric. So what exactly does Fintel do? So our product is a dedicated messaging and communication platform that provides a structured and scalable way for financial institutions to share information in compliance with customer privacy rules and in a way that leverages the government-sponsored 314B information sharing program. You can send messages quickly anytime there's a problem related to money laundering, fraud, or terrorist financing, and the product leverages the most up-to-date version of the 314B list, so your messages are directed to the appropriate counterparty and are sent in compliance with 314B rules. And the platform, as Eric mentioned, can be integrated directly into your existing case management systems, into data visualization software, and into monitoring systems. Fintel is a valuable tool for its standalone functionality just in helping to process inbound and outbound 314B requests, but also for its networking and communication functions as well. The product has been developed and has been tested in partnership with real 314B power users and is designed to suit the needs of all financial institutions regardless of their size or sector. Our company holds several granted and pending patents regarding our own methods and security designs. We're based in New York City. We have a really great team that's mixed with domain expertise and with experienced leaders in enterprise software as well. As a backdrop for our presentation, we're going to be talking today a little bit about virtual currencies such as Bitcoin, which have obviously become an attractive channel for modern money laundering. And you'll see in a moment that we've incorporated into the demo a situation involving a transfer to a virtual currency exchange. This slide, just to sort of set things up for everyone, as a precursor, shows just the growth and adoption of these products over the past 5 years. As we all know, it's been significant, and virtual currencies have become much more readily accepted and understood. And what that means is that you have more people that are investing and speculating, and more merchants accepting virtual currencies, and at the same time you have exchanges that are properly set up with appropriate licenses and AML programs. On the money laundering side, the effect is that it makes it easier for money launderers to exploit the channel. Because there are legitimate uses, it's no longer the case that if you're at a financial institution and you see a transaction to a virtual currency exchange, that you could perhaps make a determination that there may be something problematic occurring. You really can't do that anymore. You need more information, and you need to see more pieces of the puzzle to make that decision. And it is really beginning to appear that within this context, illicit actors are gravitating towards virtual currencies in lockstep. There are reports that the FBI is finding that 75% of their active money laundering investigations involve virtual currencies. And the Senate Banking Committee kicked off the year during its hearings on modernizing the BSA by putting a focus on virtual currencies. In testimony before the committee, President Trump's new Undersecretary for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence emphasized that sophisticated criminal organizations are actively seeking to exploit virtual currencies. And I'll note that her testimony came on the heels of one of the first reported terrorist financing cases that involved the use of Bitcoin. In that matter, it's alleged that a woman laundered funds intended to be received by ISIS that involved at least 7 different financial institutions. From our perspective, we believe that it's without question that through greater information sharing, more cases like the one that I just mentioned can be detected and resolved faster. And Eric's now going to discuss a little bit of a hypothetical fact pattern that we've put together and get started in telling you a little bit more about our products.
Thank you, Matt. So in today's webinar, we're going to show you how we're going to increase the ML efficiency by 300% using a cryptocurrency money laundering case. And the key point we try to make here is how we're going to reduce the days to collect evidence to hours to collect and retain and structure this evidence, and how we're going to reduce the hours to collect the evidence to the minutes to investigate, retain, and share. So without further ado, let me show you what we do mean by this. First of all, so that during the whole demo, you have the ability to follow it easily. We're going to walk through 3 steps: point-and-click investigation, then how we're going to retain the evidence, and then how we're going to structure and share the evidence. These are the 3 main stages. Now, the crime scene is a basic one. Although it's a hypothetical use case, it is actually mirroring true, actually money laundering cases of virtual currencies happening both in New York and in the past. In this current situation, we have a regulated bank, Capstash, for which Byram Rudd, an account holder, has received a cash transaction of $20,000 and asked the Capstash bank to wire that sum, that amount, into CoinCase exchange for another $20K immediately. Now, there's suspicion that Byram Rudd may be doing money laundering because the 20K, as you know, transaction, the double 20K transaction would trigger a CTR, a currency transaction report, and from there on, investigations start. AML investigators believe that there may be not only money laundering, but maybe a fraud ring on the back. Now, how are we going to go and do that? As you can see here, the CTR, the currency transaction report, has been converted into a suspicious activity report, and we're going to walk you through why. So we're going to start here, but actually there's two ways of investigating. The first one is to do a full KYC on Byram Rudd, but we're not going to do this here. We're going to walk through directly to the link analysis because we do believe with multi-channel link analysis, you can speed up the investigation, reduce the amount of hours, and gain efficiency on getting to the right evidence for the case. So let's proceed to the link analysis. So what is link analysis? So before we start, usually when you do investigation in fraud or in money laundering, you would go through a list of alerts, and then you have to reconcile almost visually, eyeballing each of them to understand if there's any correlation. The nature of a link analysis is to visually give you the ability to look at the flow, the transaction flow in that direction. As you can see here in the multi-channel link analysis, it pinpoints relationship between the transaction flows. And you can see here the transaction that Byram Rudd is receiving into his account that happens to belongs to Capstash Bank of $20,000, and that he's asking the bank to wire it to CoinCase. Now, the question is, how can we start the investigation quickly? And this is where we call it point and click. How can we point and click and do forensic on this graph, which is basically all the activities of Byram Rudd, and understand if there's any hidden data relationship. So via a simple right click, you can start to zoom in into any relation, any activities that are being described as a relationship in the case of Byram Rudd. And as you can see here, the first thing that appears that being revealed by the link analysis is there's a new subject. Mary Johnson is actually the one depositing $20K into Byram Rudd account at Capstash Bank, first off. And then you can see here the appearance of phone and addresses. And as an AML investigator, you kind of do know that they may be suspicious of fraud here, of ring fraud. And therefore, ring fraud, usually people do sharing of phone and addresses in a synthetic manner. But let's say that today we just want to understand if there's any suspiciousness of sharing phone or addresses among other members. Simple right click and you're going to get to another relationship. One of which is you're already detecting that they are sharing phone addresses. This is the first piece of evidence. Sharing addresses for families or friends or colleagues who are working together and sharing a rent, that is totally normal. Sharing phone number is less normal. So at this point, it raises a little bit your suspiciousness, and you want to understand if there's anything else. You could right-click and understand if there's any sharing of addresses. And as you can see here, you have another piece of evidence where you can clearly see a sharing of address and a phone. At that point, it does raise your suspicion level, and you basically try to conduct more forensics to understand if there isn't a ring that's been constituted. And remember, we are in a graph view. This is very difficult to operate if you have a list view or table view. It's almost impossible because you would have at least 5 or 6 tables to go and reconcile, and it's not obvious from a cognitive eyes per se that you could easily see those relationships. So let's move forward and right-click again, and voila. You can see here that you have evidence of a ring where 2 phone addresses is being shared and 2 addresses are being shared. You can add actually the subject to your suspicious activity report, and this is evidence that this is activity that could be constituted money laundering. However, as in any money laundering case, it's all about decisioning what we should do next. So should we close the account? Should we contact law enforcement? There's a cost for prosecution, and you at this point you may not feel very confident that it's enough to call for the next step, and therefore you want to trigger sharing of information between Captash and CoinCase. At that point, you need to trigger a 314B request to CoinCase via the integrated Fintel function. I hand it over back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Eric. And as Eric has sort of pointed out, it's just if we pause for a moment, just think out loud here about what's the analyst sort of who's looking at that analysis thinking. It's a pretty messy situation, and there are decisions that need to be made about filing suspicious activity reports, possibly closing the accounts. And in doing that, gathering more information is essential. And there's no better source of information than a 314B request. It's really common sense, and that's why you would do it. And moving along, you'll see how the analyst directly from the application is able to launch Fintel. And a big part of what we do next is work with a user to ask some questions so we understand the nature of the activity that's involved. And this is done for 3 reasons up front. 1, to determine whether or not it's even legally permissible to share customer information with another institution and whether or not the safe harbor is applicable. The second reason being to capture structured data about the activity. And then the third reason is to help route and triage the request at the counterparty. You'll see here that the 314B outbound request becomes much more complete as the application begins to draw in data directly in structured format that is inside of Evidence Lake. Next, the investigator is able to sort of choose a workflow and get much more put together sort of a team to help handle this outbound request if it's necessary. Finally, in terms of putting the case together, the investigator can review all of the imported data inside of Fintel and then can begin to prep the case by adding notes. And importantly, one of the things that you have to do when you send an outbound request is really figure out what it is that you want from the counterparty. And this is an opportunity for the team to contribute and put those questions together, as well as attach to the request any link analysis or KYC documents that may be important. Next, moving along in terms of using Fintel, the team is able to prepare the outbound message and send it off for approval. A lot of institutions, before any information can leave the bank, require someone to sort of review it and to take a look. And through Fintel, that can happen in a really seamless process where the investigator starts it and an approver is able, even directly through a text message or through an email, review the matter and allow it to be sent. In this case, we're showing the supervisor, whose name is David, getting that message and approving it, and then an encrypted message gets sent to the counterpart. At CoinCase, in this matter, Christina would receive an email at the address that she uses on the current 314B list, and she's able to create a limited access account and can reply directly to Capstash. As well, what's really key here and really useful is that Christina can also download all of the data in structured format and begin to run it through CoinCase's systems. looking for alerts, and that could happen in a very, very quick fashion based on the way the information is structured and delivered to CoinCase. The counterparty can reply directly through the Fintel app, and the messages are automatically appear inside of Fintel. And any replies that are sent through different channels. So let's say CoinCase didn't reply directly over Fintel. That can be imported into Fintel through various different drag and drop methods. After receiving the response, the Capstash team can review it. And in this case, we showed that a common phone number was being used. And that's something that if you're an investigator and you're seeing come in response to a 314B, it automatically raises additional questions, and perhaps you want to reach directly out to CoinCase. Using the Fintel application, you can immediately place a phone call to the counterpart, ask questions of them, take notes about the matter, and everything is stored all together in a common case where there's a complete audit trail. Finally, the application allows the team to prepare a summary report of the matter, where they are able to look at all of the details received as part of the 314B case, capture it, bring it all together, and that information is leverageable inside of Evidence Lake and can be used down the road if a SAR needs to be filed. The application includes a complete audit trail, which is viewable to the team, and also includes a status update. So any communications that are sent through Fintel are tracked, and you have an idea as a user where that matter may stand. So if your supervisor says, "Hey, did we send that 314B out to CoinCase?" you can say, "Yes, we did. We believe they received it. They've looked at it. They're in the process of getting a response back to us." That information comes through the application. Eric's now going to swing back and show you guys how the data that's received is integrated into Evidence Lake.
Thank you, Matt. So we have started with point-and-click investigation via the multi-channel link analysis. Matt has shown to you how Fintel structure and share the evidence, and now that evidence structured and shared are back into the Evidence Lake where you can do further investigation. And why is that so? Let me move forward here. As you can see, the difference between the first step and the step where 314B additional information enrich the investigation cases is that in this particular case, the 314B investigation has enriched the case with at least 3 new data elements. The first element that we already knew was they were sharing phone numbers and addresses. But via the 314B, there's 3 new elements. One is a new wire, a new name, John Ellis, and more importantly, a new address that is actually near where Byram Rudd lives. So at that point in time, the decisioning power for you to understand which way you want to go, you want to go the extra step, we mean that it's above and beyond filing the SAR, the Suspicious Activity Report, to call law enforcement, or to shut down the bank account, which is a big decision. It is actually those pieces of evidence that is being retained for making a decision or prosecuting in court of law. So this is the power of point-and-click analysis, retaining the evidence in an evidence lake, and structuring and sharing the information. Now, just a quick information on what we mean retaining evidence. By regulation, as you know, in AML, you need to keep at least 5 years of data. Now, most of the time, bank will keep it, if they do have enough storage, in archive mode, so it's not hot data. In our case, the Evidence Lake uses modern big data technologies and secure cloud technologies. All those data are hot. You can actually reconduct those multi-link analyses not only in let's say, batch mode per se, but you can go back and do real-time investigation to see if anything is changing. This is a very important aspect of the AML Evidence Lake, is not only you're able to keep and retain the evidence, but you can put the let's say, the fraudster, the money launderer under observation, and understand in real time what is happening. And then from there, create your cases, your SOAR, so that it bears enough evidence for the case to go for, in front of a court of law, for example. So in summary, in this walkthrough, we have presented to you how point-and-click investigation can increase AML efficiency, how you can retain evidence over the long historical time frame, and go back in a hot data real-time investigation needed, how you can structure and share the evidence so that the decisioning power of where you're going to go next being increased, and more importantly, in this crime scene, the money laundering ring is being busted. So to summarize, we will increase the AML efficiency by 300% by purely reducing the day to collect evidence to hours to collect and retain evidence, and we're going to reduce the hours to collect evidence to minutes to investigate, retain, and share in full compliance with Section 314B. If you want to learn more, we invite you to click on our website. There's a special section, Guardian Analytics website on AML. And as for Fintel, the whole Fintel website is dedicated to Section 314B, structuring and sharing. This opened the Q&A session. Just before that, if you have any project you want to share with us, please contact us at success@guardiananalytics.com or directly Matt at fintel.com. We will have a team that will reach out to you and assess the project, understand how we can help you increase your AML efficiency program. Let's now open up the Q&A session. So we have a first set of questions. So the first question is, what people is doing currently in that space? Matt, you want to take this one?
Sure. So we're at a sort of post passage of 314B phase where most financial institutions are aware of 314B and have filed their annual notice with FinCEN to participate in the program. It's well above 4,000 financial institutions that are currently registered. And many of the largest institutions are very, very active sharers of 314B information. They may receive thousands of requests a year, and they are sending just as many outbounds. And the plethora of institutions that they are engaging with could be in the hundreds. For smaller institutions, they're sharing as well, often amongst each other, but then also at times with the larger institutions. And the big problems in the industry, which we're addressing through our software, is that everyone's using a disjointed method and really an antiquated method of sending password-protected PDFs in a format to each other where you have to use a password to open up the questions and then perhaps use a separate system to respond. So there's no software involved at all in the process. Spreadsheets are really being used to manage the aging of cases or to look for any sort of analytics. And so a piece of software is really needed, and that's what Fintel is addressing.
Thank you, Matt. Actually, there's another question that I think, Matt, you're very well positioned to answer is, what is 314B?
Sure. Just for anyone out there that's not that familiar with 314B, it's a provision in the Patriot Act that allows financial institutions to share information with each other under a safe harbor from any liability. And what that means is that they can discuss customer information with each other as long as it's connected to money laundering or terrorist financing activity, or if there's fraudulent activity, if there's a nexus to possible money laundering or terrorist financing activity, and feel very comfortable exchanging that data. That's what 314B provides. And if you are going to share under the provision, though, you need to file a notice with FinCEN. You need to have a program in place for properly exchanging and maintaining data. Again, those are aspects that our software helps address as well. It's an out-of-the-box solution for being in compliance with 314B sharing.
Thank you, Matt. And actually, there's a subsistent question: is why should I use 314B as opposed to just the normal AML practices? Yeah.
Sure. You know, I think what it really comes down to is that 314B provides an institution with an opportunity to gain information and intelligence that they can't get anywhere else. It's really the only way you're gonna be able to really understand perhaps what's going on, and it's extremely useful when making determinations about whether or not to file suspicious activity reports, as Eric had mentioned before, whether or not to maybe even close the accounts or contact law enforcement. But on the flip side, it's always also important to remember that if you can use 314B, and perhaps it helps you gain an insight into a customer where they're no longer as risky, where something that you may have been concerned about you no longer should be concerned about. And so really, 314B sharing just allows you to do a much better job at not only complying but also making decisions about your overall risk exposure as an institution. And I'll say sort of on the flip side, receiving 314B requests, it's a great thing. If you are receiving those inbound messages and taking them very seriously, those are extremely high value alerts. That's the way you can sort of look at them. And relative to what a transaction monitoring system may produce, an inbound 314B request is on par with receiving a subpoena from law enforcement. It should really draw your team's attention, and it's something that you should be looking at. And in this case, using the example here, a coin case was alerted to something that it wouldn't ordinarily know about. All it had was a customer that opened a virtual currency account and was beginning to trade in the account. They didn't know that it was connected to possible money laundering. So by being active in 314B, by using software that speeds up the process, you're really able to do a lot of advanced things in this area.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I think I would add this is a very important aspect of the AML Evidence Lake and the 314B is in the case of cryptocurrencies money laundering, it's very difficult to understand the relationship because, as you may know, when you turn into a cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin, the ecosystem of cryptocurrencies is very dark. In other words, you can't trace; it's untraceable. So the only point where a bank and a money service provider like CoinCase could partner to understand if they're not exposed to any money laundering and therefore regulatory fines if that happen, is to share more information. And that sharing of information has to start very sooner than later. In other words, in the customer de-risking, so at the risk scoring part, it is very important that you want to take the decision to either open the account or refuse the account. And if you happen to already open the account and a year later you need to understand if that account holder, that subject was part of a money laundering scheme, you want to be sure that you have enough evidence to shut it down and call law enforcement. Without sharing information across institutions, it's basically a blind spot. I have a last question, which is a bit more logistics. Will this presentation be available to be printed out? Yes. I mean, please contact us either at success@analytics.com or Matt at Fintel, and we will ensure that you can have a copy of the presentation. So this wrap up this webinar. Thank you for attending, and please rate the webinar so that we can improve it. Thank you, everyone.